It was fun. Anyway, hello everybody and welcome to Sonic the Hedgehog, An Unfortunate History. I'm Max.
I'm Andrew.
And together we are the foundation for the eradication of Gen 5 Pokemon. We need to boo! Yeah. I assume you're booing Gen 5 and not us. Boo! Gen 5 sucks!
I think these people are clueless, Max.
We're not giving that panel again. We gave that yesterday. If you weren't here yesterday, that's your fault. But you can follow that nifty QR code because it'll take you to our YouTube channel where we have several renditions of that panel uploaded. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Sonic the Hedgehog.
Sadly, yes.
I'm so upset about this.
I'm not.
That's weird because this was my panel first.
And then it became mine.
Yeah. So before we talk about Sonic, I need to know what you know about Sonic the Hedgehog because we need an idea of what kind of audience we have. So we know how to discuss the issue. I'm really afraid of what you're going to tell us with the raised hand, and I'm going to take the risk and go for it, but I'm probably not going to take much more interaction after this. So presumably it was Waldo.
He goes fast.
Wow. Panel done! All right.
I mean, there's 116 slides. I think we should just give the panel anyway.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, so I'm going to show you an image. If you believe this, that image is a Sonic the Hedgehog character, raise your hand. If you do not think it's a Sonic the Hedgehog character, do not raise your hand.
And we will ask you which one you think it is.
Yeah, this is very simple. Just raise a hand if you think it's a character. Don't get cute on me.
How cute.
Yeah, you're on thin ice already. So, is this a Sonic the Hedgehog character? Raise your hand if yes. Who is it? You were the only person who raised your hand.
Well, I mean, from a personality standpoint,
Which one is it?
Which one? I mean, he is edgy and loves himself too much, but no.
Wow, you guys are bad. That's Dr. Eggman. Now, at this point, I mean, yeah, he has hair plugs, okay? So, those are definitely from his nose. So at this point, I'm not really sure where one starts and the other ends, but somehow Elon Musk has become worse for animal rights than Eggman, a man who takes birds and shoves them in robots to fight to the death. Because at least he's not neural linking them.
All right, next up. Is the Grinch a Sonic the Hedgehog character? I'm amazed you know that, but
bad
no.
at this.
I saw one other hand. We'll give one other try. Oh, okay, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
is he the Lego guy from the comics?
No. It's the better Dr. Eggman, Dr. Robotnik from the new movies. It's even played by the same actor, Jim Carrey. These people are bad.
These guys are really bad at this. Is Toru from Jackie Chan Adventures a Sonic the Hedgehog character? Jesus. Yeah, who is it? No. Who is it? Yes.
Woo! Got one.
Not to be confused with my OC, Bigger the Catter. Who was created when Big the Cat, Toru, and Shadow the Hedgehog all combined into one thing, and now we hang out at the mall and fight jerk cops together. There's your reference. Is the Sailor Moon AMV for Crawling in My Skin a Sonic the Hedgehog character? Yes.
That can apply to half the characters in the Sonic Archie comics.
I want one specific character.
Mongoose.
No. Yes. No.
They're really bad at this, Max.
Yes. In the back. Yeah. Oh my God.
Okay, I think
Yes.
Is it Cream the Rabbit?
Jesus Christ. Why would this be Cream the Rabbit?
No, it is. Her name is...
I don't trust any. You're all going to get it wrong. It's Shadow the Hedgehog.
Just because I feel like you guys need some help, limit yourselves to the game canon. Don't go into the comics right now.
Do I look like someone who's read the comics?
I mean, I can make those jokes, he can't. So I have to dumb it down for him.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this is a normie panel. Next is Pacific Gas and Electric, a Sonic the Hedgehog character. Yes. No. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I think he's like the first person to get these right.
Yeah.
You're getting a pedal point. If I can find my backpack. I get to give one away per panel, and I'm already doing it.
All right. Well, while you're doing that,
I don't even know.
You can trade it into like the programming guys for like a prize or something.
Congratulations. Yay!
Thanks that guy for actually getting one right.
It took like 5 characters for you guys to figure out the bit.
As funny, okay, look, as funny as this is, can we give a...
No, we can't.
All right.
Next is that moment you realized you were attracted to anthropomorphic characters, a Sonic the Hedgehog character. Yes.
I feel like there's no right answer. I'm going to say Roots of Bat.
It's Rouge the Bat.
No. So our other best answer was it depends, and then his other choice was Knuckles.
No. He said it depends on your preferences, which is very fair. So, they don't know anything.
No, they don't.
No. Or they know too much.
They
I'm not
know
really
too much.
sure. Yeah.
Based on their answers, they know too much.
No, because like 5 people raise their hands each time. They don't know anything. So we're going to start from the very beginning, which is when Sega was an entirely different company that sold gambling machines to sailors. That's what they did. They were in Japan selling gambling machines to American sailors in Osaka. It was basically just loot boxes, let's be honest. They were service games. They're still service games, just with less characters because people can't read. Unfortunately for them, at some point, the United States government decided that sailors can't gamble. They're already risking their lives. Why let them risk their money too? That's stupid. So Sega had to come up with a new bit, but they really liked making games, and they really liked sailors for some reason. And this brought us to Periscope, a big arcade cabinet that Sega made. So this is basically the first Virtual Boy. You put your eyes in right there, and you navigate a sub to sync other ships. And it was big, and it was pretty good for its time, and it cost 25 cents to play. And I know you're saying, it's an arcade game, Max. That's a pretty standard 25 cents. It was not the case. 25 cents was actually a lot to charge for a game at the time. But when Periscope came out, everybody went, wait, people will pay 25 cents to play Metal Slug? Let's just do it. And then, after the success of Periscope and trying to get gamblers to waste all their money on them, Sega decided they were really going to commit to the bit and invest heavily in the video game industry. And like anyone else in 1982, they made their own console. This is the Sega SG-1000. You may not recognize it. It didn't do too well, but don't worry. Sega, not to be deterred, did an OC Do Not Steal on the thing and just kept re-releasing it in different colors and different names, including the Sega Master System Girl. Finally, girls can play video games. Thank you, Sega. And the Master System, mostly because there were like 50 million of them, which is slightly above how many it actually sold, did okay. It outsold Nintendo in Western Europe, Western Japan, and Brazil, where Nintendo won in Italy, I guess, and America. It had an attachment rate of 21. The attachment rate is how many games someone's going to buy on average per console. 21 is really high. It's the highest number. There is no 22. That's fake. You can't count that high. The NES had an attachment rate of 8. For instance, 8 to 10 is pretty average. So even though Nintendo outsold the Sega Master System nearly 3 to 1, the Master System somehow sold about as many games. And it did best in Brazil, accounting for 8 million of its 22 million sales. In fact, as recently as 2016, you could still buy the Master System in Brazil. It was selling 150,000 units a year, which means they're only a couple hundred years away from finally passing Nintendo and winning the second video game console generation. I believe in them. Do you? And you might be wondering, why Brazil? That's a weird place for Sega to do well. But it all makes sense when you realize who Sega was using to market their consoles outside of Japan. Because Sega of Japan knew the only thing they understood about international markets was how to appeal to drunken sailors. And that's not their market. So instead they hired Tonka. I need to be clear, this is not a joke. And what do Tonka and Brazilians both love very much? Deforestation. With every Master System you buy, we'll clear cut another acre of the Amazon. And with, should we say limited success? Yeah. With not being the worst thing out of that generation. And Sega decided they were going to follow it up with the Genesis. And man, it's 1989. We're getting the Sega Genesis with, the best pack-in game, potentially of all time. You guys know what it came with, right? Altered Beast. I thought it was supposed to be Sonic.
Yeah, no, they didn't actually pack that in to start. No, this is just where Sega started their furry obsession.
I think a lot of people reached sexual maturity when this game came out. So Sega didn't really know what they were doing. The Genesis had a 2-year advantage on the Super Nintendo, but when you're coming with this as a pack-in and charging twice as much as the NES, people are just going to buy the Mario machine. Like, it's easy. So what they did, they reached out and they found the one man who could market whatever this was to America, and that was Tom Kalinske. Woo! This man is why Barbies are popular. I know what you're saying, Max, they're Barbies. They're very popular. Not when he was selling toys, because when they saw Barbies and saw that they had plastic boobs, everyone kind of assumed they would be anatomically correct in a lot of other areas. And he had to get over that. And when you think about how insane parents are now about the books that are in their children's schools, he had to deal with that, but for a doll. And he won.
All right, but now we need to talk about the conception of Sonic the Hedgehog, which we promise we will never image search, and you should also never image search that. But, so Sega was getting their ass kicked, and they needed to change something. They needed to one-up Nintendo. So, how did they do it? They looked at Nintendo, and Nintendo had a fantastic poster boy in Mario. Oh, that's in the audience. But not that one.
That's you.
That one doesn't sound right. There we go. Yeah. So, but the poster boy gave you a reason to get that console because it was very recognizable and it was a game that you wanted to play. So it kind of sold the console itself and helped get the install base.
Yeah. So who was Sega's character? Who did they use? Yeah, yep. Why do you know that?
Alex the Kid was the original Sega poster boy. And
I feel like so many of these people were expecting a serious panel, and they're just getting absolutely devastated as we go.
Yeah, so Alex Kidd wasn't cutting it. He can't cut a loaf of bread, let alone the video game industry. So Sega decided that they had to do something new and to match Mario. So they decided to go with the opposites approach. Mario's nice and slow, so Sonic's got to be really fast. Mario uses 2 buttons. Well, we only need 1 button. Because we all know nobody ever uses more than 1 button. That's why the paint rubs off your W key.
It's from disuse.
Mario is red, so Sonic has to be blue and have a crippling cookie addiction. Mario, very wholesome. Sonic, edgy as possible. Mario, you fight animals. Sonic hurts them in a much more roundabout way. Mario had an absolutely terrible movie, and Sonic was on track to make a movie that was even worse before the internet fixed it for them.
Who said bowling doesn't work?
Mario's timeless. Sonic was dated the moment he came out. I mean, in the original concept design, they literally just took Mickey Mouse and slapped on Felix the cat's head. Like, that was the original design for him. And they had great ideas. They called him Mr. Needlemouse and gave him a human girlfriend because we all know that's the best part of Sonic. That's what we want. But why did they pick a hedgehog as a flagship character? I guess they're kind of pointy and cool and a little bit cute. Sure, whatever. But some of the other choices are interesting. Like, okay, sure, Tails, fine. Everyone loves foxes until they're screaming at you. If you haven't heard a fox scream, you're probably in a much happier place in your life. And then there's an echidna? What is that? I didn't even know that was a real animal till like 2 weeks ago.
Up. These animals are fake.
And then they just decided to raid the zoo. Because if there's an animal, it's more likely in a Sonic game than not. Like, we got a bee, a crocodile, an armadillo, a bat, rabbit, hawk. Whatever Chow are.
I mean, I'd honestly argue if it's not in a Sonic game, it's not a real animal at this point.
So
I'd name something, but I genuinely don't know if it's in the Sonic universe.
But now we need to actually talk about the games themselves. Now that they had a character, they had to create some way that made people want to play that character. And we're going to start with classic Sonic, because they did something different. So they made a platformer. For the time, platformers were common, but all of them had problem solving, was repetition and precision jumping and problem solving. Sonic did repetition and kind of going fast. So fast is good, because when you went fast, you would end up on the higher paths, which are often slower or faster and easier. But if you miss the jumps, you end up on the slower paths that take longer and make you die more. So you end up trying those jumps more and more, and like eventually after like the 7th time, you make the jump once and then die. And then you'll at like the 30th time, you start making those jumps every time, so you get to actually go fast. So it was very different for the time. The plot was not really anything to write home about. It was very stereotypical, you know, bad guy takes animals, shoves them into robots, and magic stone saves the day. So very, very boilerplate. And then we came to Sonic 2. It didn't reinvent the formula at all, just added the second playable character, Ninetales, yeah. And added the spin dash so you could attack things without moving. Yeah. I mean, it sold good. It wasn't quite as good as the first one, 6 million units, but I mean, it was one of the first games out there with a global release. And I'm not kidding, they named him Tails in America because we couldn't handle the miles per hour joke in his Japanese name of miles per hour. We're the only one who would get that joke. We're the only one who use miles. Why would they drop that joke for the American audience? We're sensitive about the weirdest things. All right, then we had Sonic 3, somehow released in America before Japan. Go America.
We did it.
Designed,
USA. No, don't.
yeah, it was designed as one game in kind of 2 parts. And the soundtrack was going to be made with a certain famous musician. Just that musician turned out to be a noted child diddler. Not that one.
Wrong one.
Not one.
Wrong one. Who made these slides?
That's alleged. Nope. There we go. Yes. So Michael Jackson helped on the music for Sonic 3. Deep in production, the accusations started to come out, so they decided they had to redo all the music for Sonic 3. And by which I mean they just removed his name and released it as is. So, but the gameplay was, as you'd expect, they kind of expanded the formula a little bit, like bigger story, bigger levels, added a story. Funny enough, it started development as a 3D game, which got cut, and later became Sonic 3D Blast, which was not a blast. So they knew they had to stick with what they knew. So they made it a 2D side-scroller, which then got cut again because they ran out of time, and it became 2 games. First one was Sonic 3. The second one became Sonic and Knuckles, which introduced Knuckles to show us the way. To allow for this, they had created a lock-on adapter because they felt Game Shark was getting too much of that lock-on adapter market. And it was built to be backwards compatible with Sonic 3. So you plug it into Sonic 3, and instead of just having Sonic and Tails, it added Knuckles to the roster. Sonic 2, same with Sonic 2. But during development, they asked the question, what happens if somebody plugs in something that isn't a Sonic game? Well, then we got to replace a character Knuckles, right? Toe Jam and Earl becomes Toe Jam and Knuckles. Earthworm Jim? Earthworm Knuckles. I mean, it worked with every Genesis game, even VR chat. So you have a successful character in the 90s, Max. What do you do to milk it for more money?
Gushers.
They probably did that, but no. They decided that they had to put him in TV shows because that's what you did in the 90s. You made a TV show with your characters. And oh my goodness. The first one is The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. We're pretty sure this was a result of CIA first experimenting with LSD, because boy did they need to turn down that dosage. Whoever was writing this was on some serious drugs. The entire show is a giant acid trip to wild and nonsensical backgrounds to storylines that just made no sense. I mean, just look at this.
I think I know what's going on there.
Yeah, Sonic.
That's an obvious episode.
Yeah, Sonic gets attracted to a robot. Eggman joins the German Air Corps just in time for World War I.
Wait, what is Sonic not attracted to in this franchise?
Probably Eggman. I really hope.
I mean, it is Jim Carrey.
Yeah. And then he got a weird arc where he plays Yu-Gi-Oh! For a while. I'm really not sure what was going on there. And to top this off, they decided the perfect person to voice him was Jaleel White. No, I think Jaleel White did a fine job, but when I think like fast and cool, I think Steve Urkel. That was not going to be where my mind went. I mean, at least they gave us some nice, like, positives at the end of every episode where they did, like, the PSA for kids, you know, like, look both ways when crossing the freeway, don't stick your hand in a blender, and if the dog's mouth is foaming, let your little brother pet it first. The second attempt, the drugs were out of their system, and they made a show that actually had a plot. Because as I said before, the games really didn't have a plot. It was very boilerplate. So Sonic the Hedgehog, also known as Sat-I-Am, really kind of took the idea of Sonic and gave it a reason. So Eggman was the villain, and you had a reason because it was like a post-apocalyptic like tech dystopia where Eggman was like kidnapping people and turning them into robots. So it actually like made a reason of why Sonic was fighting against him with all his friends. So it was honestly very interesting, and somehow got rated ranked number 9 on all Saturday morning cartoon shows for like the era. So it was very popular, and it was such a good idea that the Archie Sonic comics just kind of picked up where the show left off and ran with the ideas. They didn't change a whole lot. They just added more things as they went on. And the group who was doing this was the Archie Comics guys. You know, the guys with the red head who can't figure out women? They were the one who did this. And it went on for over 200 issues. They had 290 issues. It actually had the world record for being the longest running franchise-based comic series. After some legal trouble with one of the previous artists who ended up having all the rights to the stuff he created because they couldn't find his original employment contract, they decided to move the rights to a new company because it was starting to get convoluted trying to carve all that out. And now on to the third show.
And more importantly, they fired a lot of lawyers.
Entire legal team got fired after that. Oh, but yeah, so third show, drugs were back.
Yeah, drugs!
So we had Sonic Underground. They were doubling down from the first time because it's a Star Wars ripoff with music instead of the Force. You know, like twins separated birth. Only this time they're triplets, and instead of magical force powers, it's the power of hard rock. Who comes up with this stuff? This was a dumpster fire.
Speaking of dumpster fires, wait, no, that's Sega Genesis. That actually did okay. That's a really bad segue. Why'd you lead me into that?
I was thirsty.
I need to fire you. So, how did Sonic Mania sweeping the nation help this thing? And honestly, it was pretty good. If you notice, the Genesis's first 2 years were absolute trash, and then they realized they could pack in Sonic and charge a little less for the console, and they kept pace with the Super Nintendo going forward in markets. What have we got outside of Japan? I think that's a key. I wonder what Japan looked like. Do we have a slide for that?
Probably not.
Oh, we do. Wow, that's really sad. Yeah, the Genesis was outsold by the TurboGrafx 16 in Japan. Those of you who are laughing know what the TurboGrafx 16 is. Those of you who are quiet have no idea what I'm talking about. Don't worry, you're all on the same page. So, also, the Genesis had an attachment rate of 16, so it outsold Nintendo in games 2-1. I don't know why. I think it's the quality of the games was really bad, so you had to get twice as many to make up for it. I mean, my first video game console was the Genesis, and my first game was college football. What, you think I'm going to play that for more than 5 minutes before I get something else? It didn't work with Ann Knuckles, though. None of the players switched.
I think you should plug it in right. You had to blow just right.
I should have used some water. So, with Sega Genesis, with Sega earning like so much goodwill with the market, I mean, they should, capitalize on that, right? Turn that into something positive going, no, money. Here we have the 32X, the first thing that Sega tried to sell to everybody with the Genesis. That's not actually chronologically true, but roll with me here because it's the one I want to talk about first. When you apply this to a Sega Genesis, it looks a little bit like this. Basically, Sega was developing the Sega Saturn in... Why are there so many Chris Chans here? It's very odd to me that... Jesus.
So we have 3?
We have 3. Okay, so, I mean, good luck finding your boyfriend-free girl. What is it? White between 18 and 24, non-smoking Christian?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm really confused about why there's so many Chris Chan cosplayers now compared to like 10 years ago. Oh man, they got so much more problematic. Anyway, the 32X, basically Sega was developing the Sega Saturn in tandem with another 32-bit console. It was like, well, maybe we'll need another console. And at some point it was gone, like, if you release this 32-bit console, it will be on the market for like a year and no one will buy it. So they abandoned it, but really liked the idea of just, slapping it onto the Genesis. And the 32X sold really well on the first day. And then it didn't sell another unit. Because when it released in America, the Sega Saturn was already out in Japan. Right? Why would you do that? At least the CD made sense. A, you could finally listen to music on something that would make you feel ashamed to keep in your living room. B, for some reason, the whole fad in the early 90s as far as video games was to have live-action filmed cutscenes, and you can't play those on a cartridge. You needed a disc. So Night Trap exists for this kind of thing. Yeah, no one cares about Night Trap. That got congressional hearings. And when you attach it to a Sega Genesis, it looks like this. Next, we have Sega VR. Woo! Woo! It didn't come out. Tom Kalinske met with the VR company, tried it, went, wow, this is terrible. Threw it in the trash. And then Nintendo came by and picked it up out of the trash and got the Virtual Boy. I need to be very clear, I am not kidding. This is the company that ultimately made the Virtual Boy. Next, but certainly not American, we have the karaoke add-on. They were really trying to pump up those Japanese numbers, and a karaoke add-on for the Genesis did not work.
Wow.
Right? You want it, don't you? Yeah. Everyone wants it. You know what I want more than that, though? I want the Tetra Drive. This is a fully functioning computer / Sega Genesis. Have you ever wanted Sonic to teach you typing? He's not going to do that on here. It won't work. Now, huh? He's going to show you DeWay to the W key. So this cost, $1,100 in 1991 money. So $2,500-ish today, which is pretty steep. But honestly, I think if you're buying a monitor, a Sega Genesis, a keyboard, and a computer in 1991, you're probably getting close to $1,100. So this might not actually be a terrible deal. I mean, don't buy it now. On the resale market, you'll go broke, but you'll have to mortgage your house. And if you want to put all this stuff on a Genesis, it looks kind of like this. Which honestly reminds me of those Sears catalog assemble your own homes. Like, hey, honey, this year, let's buy the patio. We can just throw it on. And we know how that, build your own home thing worked out for Sears. So obviously Sega's doing pretty well. I mean, you can do this. That's pretty cool. No, you can't. Yeah, you're right. It'll cause this. Speaking of thermonuclear explosions. Wait. This should have been the segue for the dumpster fire thing from earlier.
Yeah, well,
Andrew, you need to set me up properly.
There's a lot of dumpster fires in
There's
this.
so much. I don't know. I'm going to be honest. What would you rather play with, this or a Sega Saturn? You're lying. So, the Sega Saturn had a fraught history into becoming what it is today. First, we had the idea of working with Project Reality, the people who made the N64. Apparently, Tom Kalinske was in talks with them to work on the Saturn. And then when he brought the idea to Sega of Japan, they had one question, which was, are the people who make Project Reality based in Japan? And Tom Kalinske said no. And they went, well, that's fine. You can give them Nintendo's number or something. So he did. And we got the N64. Sega, as you saw in an earlier graph, they were very concerned about their sales figures domestically. And they decided that's all they really cared about going forward. Who needs the international markets? Am I right? Next, Sega tried to work with PlayStation, well, Sony at the time. They were going to make a CD console, and they were how they were going to split the publishing fees. Sega was initially convinced they would do very well in their ability to publish games compared to Sony, and then realized the contract was terrible for them financially and abandoned course, meaning that they also left Sony at the altar, and Sony definitely didn't enter the video game market just out of spite. So this brings us to the Sega Saturn, which for some reason has 2 discrete CPUs. That's a lot. So initially when they were working on the Saturn, it had one. This one wasn't real. And then they saw a demo of the PlayStation, got home and went, are there children here? I'm gonna pretend not. Well, we're fucked. And then just duct tape this bad boy on there. That's hard to program for. Not sure why you thought it was a good idea, just like using quadrilaterals instead of triangles like every other video game console. They said like, what, 1 in 100 people could actually program for a Saturn? They found it rewarding. I don't think they did. I think they found it infuriating. So with whatever this is, they proudly walked up to E3, and they turned E3, a video game conference, into a surprise launch party for the Sega Saturn. Isn't that... They were like, hey, everybody, by the way, the Sega Saturn's out right now. Don't look under your chair. There isn't one. We didn't make enough consoles. They could not sell it at various video game retailers because they didn't have enough product to actually give to everybody. So KB Toys never got Saturns and then decided to never carry Sega products anymore. A proud position that everyone followed up with them on several years later when Sega stopped having products. It also pioneered the idea of just not having mini games. We've got... this isn't doing it for me, I'm going to be honest. Well, but you know, with these are only the launch games. What's coming out after that? No games. Wait, sorry. There we go. There we go. Uncanceled. Because the console's launch date was pushed up 6 months, that wasn't just a surprise to the everyone at E3 and KB Toys, but everyone who made the games for the Saturn, as they went, wait a minute, we're not ready yet. So it came out with 6 launch titles, and then didn't have anything for 6 months. Their idea was they would, a lot of people would buy Saturns, and they would establish a base of support to play off of against the PlayStation before it launched. But that doesn't work if your best game is what, golf? Pebble Beach Golf Links. There we go. That's going to sell a console. But it's not all bad. It's worse. This was the controller.
Is that a Walkman? You put CDs into it, right?
Yeah, I think that cord going up there is actually for your headphones. Here's the thing. We're all saying this is gross, but all of you have, like, made love to an N64 controller. Don't mess with me here. They also used iced tea to sell it. I don't really know why they did that. I don't know how he's going to sell you a Saturn. And all of this combined led to us the first instance of a rapid, unscheduled disassembly of a video game console. But only in America. Because while Japan had issues with the console itself, it didn't have all of those launch issues that America had. Not only did they, actually have games for it when it came out in a steady supply going forward, but they had a man who promised to beat the absolute shit out of you if you didn't play a Sega Saturn. Which is why it did pretty well in Japan and nowhere else.
And it had an interesting problem, though. It's like, where was the Sonic
I don't
game?
think that's a problem, I'm going to be honest.
Because you'd think that Sonic, which pushed the Genesis sales to reasonable numbers, would be a shoo-in for your next console. But no, they just decided to skip the Saturn and go straight to the Dreamcast with their next Sonic games. And we're not even going to talk about the Dreamcast because it didn't really do much. It just came out and was there for a little bit.
No, I'll talk about the Dreamcast. Okay. I love the Dreamcast.
I don't.
This thing's pretty cool. Why don't you?
I had a GameCube.
Don't worry, I have enough Dreamcasts for the both of us. That is not untrue. So it had a weird UMD memory card thing. No one understands how it works. If you say you do, you're lying to me. It had a modem, so you could actually play games online. So it was it wasn't really ahead because there was always like some form of online gaming back to the Atari 2600. But this just let you do that before the Xbox. It came out for $200, which was pretty cool. It used optical discs that were really easy for pirating. Everyone loves pirating. And yeah, it honestly, if the Saturn didn't come out before this and everybody just assumed Sega was dead, this might have worked.
Yeah, because it was overall like a fine console. It didn't have huge problems, but it was just kind of a little too late.
It had a full keyboard and a web browser. I could do the internet on a Dreamcast.
All right, so now we have to talk about modern Sonic. Now with 3Ds. Started with the Dreamcast with Sonic Adventure, and with this new generation, they wanted to have fresh styles with everything. So, and I quote, they wanted to give them new, edgy designs. You can see how well that turned out.
I'm gonna be honest. He looks like he's gonna eat my face. This is like some FNAF stuff.
And they wanted to make new, inventive game experiences. So they decided on fishing, a whole campaign of nothing but fishing. Because when I purchase a game about the blue blur and going fast, I want slow, relaxing fishing.
What?
Clearly.
Why?
My understanding was that some dev had mocked up a fishing rod end engine. He's like, look what I did. I totally wasn't goofing off. They're like, we love it. Make a campaign about it. So
couldn't they have just... There was already Sega Bass Pro Fishing.
Yeah, but they wanted fishing.
I have it.
They wanted fishing in a Sonic game. Oh, well, fishing's not doing it for you? Well, let's put an on-rail shooter section. Because yeah, we want that and not running fast.
But they already had Mavis Beacon teaches typing of the dead.
Exactly. They're just like, yeah, whatever we can do, put it in here. Let's throw everything in. And we had Sonic Adventure 2.
No, you don't mean that.
I'll be honest, this was my first Sonic game.
Mine was and Knuckles. The Metacritic score of Sonic Adventure 2 is fiercely overrated. All of you are applauding Sonic Adventure 2, but I think if you revisit that game as an adult, you're just going to find yourself replaying City Escape over and over again, and only visiting other levels to get things to feed your Chow, so it can fight your friend's Chow. And like... You're going to sit there and be like, do I really have to go to the Halloween level again? I hate that place. I guess I just won't have a Tiger Chow. Don't pretend you like that whole game. You like 10% of that game. And that 10% slaps. Don't get me wrong. But in 89, I think it's at best a 69 nice.
All right, and then we had Sonic Heroes, where they decided they had to slam their OCs into everything. I mean,
I love how quick the audience turned on us.
I mean, the rumored 15 was just going to be your dad and his two coworkers. At this point, it's more likely for someone to be included in a Sonic game than not. I mean, it didn't expand on the formula. It was just made you play 3 characters at the same time, so you can't run fast because you have 2 other characters with you. It's like, I just don't think they get why people were enjoying Sonic games. They want to run fast. They haven't let us do this since Sonic 1.
Don't worry, though. The next game really figured it out by answering some really important questions, like, what is the meaning of life? What is good and evil? What happened if we gave a hedgehog a gun? My friend got that game for his birthday. His party was a sleepover, but he just sat in his room the whole time playing Shadow the Hedgehog while the rest of us hung out. Rio, I thought you were cool, man. But you thought this was a good idea. I thought they were trying to appeal to Japanese audiences. Why are they making a gun game?
All right, and then, of course, we have Sonic 06.
Wait, Andrew, why did you... No. Why would you put that in here?
I mean, it's only a little glitchy. Yeah. I'm sure you guys understand about how glitchy this goes. I mean, if you weren't too busy clipping into the floor. So they followed the fantastic game design of Sonic being romantically involved with human women because that's what they proved we needed. Again, why?
It took 15 years, but they finally did it. Those brave souls, he was almost legal.
All right, and then we had Sonic Unleashed, because at least we had something better. Yeah, because the bar was that low.
I mean, to be fair, if you didn't clip through the floor, you cleared the bar at this point.
Also, werehog? That word means human turning into a hedgehog, not a hedgehog turning into a wolf. The werewolf, the wolf word is what means wolf. Did nobody on the development team get that? All right, but finally, the daytime levels were great. We got fast running, like speed. You felt good with those missions. They just were sweet, short, and fantastic. Oh, but you need a slow beat 'em up section? Like some of these missions can take you like over an hour to beat on like a regular playthrough. It's like, yeah, guys, that's not what we wanted. No, just stop, please.
But it's okay, because then we finally got the video game adaptation of Monty Python and the Holy Grail with Sonic and the Black Knight. And it was everything one person was asking for. I mean, at this point, like, the reputation of Sonic games was going the way of the reputation of Sega, where it was just like unapproval through the roof. I mean, my friend would always be like, Max, the new Sonic game is going to be great. I'm so excited. And then it'd come out and he wouldn't talk to me for 3 weeks. And just pretend that interaction never happened. And then the Sonic team, realizing that, yeah, we don't know what we're doing anymore, they decided to consult the fans, which generally is a terrible idea. But they only consulted one fan specifically, and that fan made Sonic Mania, which is the first time a Sonic game came out, and my friend Tyler still talked to me after it released. Which is why I knew it was good, but still wasn't going to play it. I've been burned so many times. But then they had to consult another fan.
Yeah, they talked to the other fans. And then we got Sonic Forces, because they're like, oh, all these not great Sonic games really not been printing the money like we need. So you know what we need? Furry generator. That's going to print the money. And I guess it did.
I mean, no offense to people who just want a furry generator,
but you can do that on like Newgrounds. You don't need a Sonic game for it.
Is Newgrounds still a website?
Yes.
Oh my god. What about Albino Black Sheep?
I have no idea.
No? Okay.
All right, but the games aren't the only thing coming out. We can't talk about modern Sonic without talking about the movies. I mean, if you saw these movies, you know they actually weren't that bad. Like, I went into it with my friends just hoping to rip into it and call it absolutely terrible. And I came out and was like, okay, you know, I had fun. I like Jim Carrey. But Jim Carrey was the only reason to watch that movie and enjoy that movie. It wasn't a Sonic movie. It was an Eggman movie.
I mean, hot take, not very good. Yeah, boo, thank you. I appreciate that. Here's my biggest problem with the Sonic films. It's not the fact that it is just a Jim Carrey movie, or the first movie is just a road trip movie, and they could have replaced Sonic with Alex the Kid, and it would have been the same thing. It's the fact that they decided to have Idris Elba voice Knuckles, because now I want to fuck Knuckles. And I'm just not okay with that. Like 3,000 Years of Longing, that movie's about everyone's dream life, right? It's not just me. Andrew, please move the slide. It's going to get gross soon. Thank you.
So now we need to talk about Sonic Frontiers, because it took them 5 years to copy Breath of the Wild, where Genshin Impact only took 3. I mean, playing through it just feels like a cheap Breath of the Wild, like collectibles, puzzles spread out everywhere. For some reason, leveling system that did not need to be based on the collectibles, and just copied piano riffs. I mean, the final boss fight was a quick time event with 3 button presses. Just had no soul. We all know Sonic uses 1 button.
Yeah. The least Sonic
then
game
it's
ever.
Just like Space Invaders minigame. It's still not a Sonic game. Oh, but the one thing, like Sonic's had a lot of up and downs, like more than an earthquake, but damn do they do the music right every time. Like all the way back from like Sonic CD, like Sonic Boom still lives in my head. And then like we had Sonic Adventure 2 Battle with City Escape. Like they had fantastic music. They knew what they were doing. It was so good. But why?
First of all, a lot of people applauded as if Hoobastank didn't make music for Sonic games. So Sonic music was, of course, brought to us by Crush 40. And you would feel like this is the embodiment of Sonic music, but that's not really the case. Like they look like they've been making music for Sonic before Sonic's been around, but Sonic's musical inspiration wasn't these guys, it was Bill Clinton. So here's Jun Chino. He started with Sega in 1993 as the lead composer for Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Yay. It's good to know at least one of the musicians involved didn't end up being problematic. Fingers crossed. In addition to Sonic games, he worked on various racing games because, I mean, look at that guitar. That thing screams Need for Speed. Yeah, right? This is not a man who knows what Harvest Moon is, let alone will make music for it. After Sonic 3 and Knuckles, there was a drought of Sonic games because the Saturn, forgot to do that. So June found himself too hardcore to make music for like Nights into Dreams, and not nearly hardcore enough to make music for Echo the Dolphin. So he decided that he was going to go on a pilgrimage to America to find the single best vocalist of all time. And there we go. We got it. I forgot his name.
Johnny Gioli.
Johnny Gioli. I'm good at this. It's because it's June, and then I'm like, no, it can't be Johnny. And they reunited. Well, they united, and they brought us one of the greatest songs of all time, Open Your Heart. But why Crush 40? Like, what kind of name is that? The name of a band is important, be it your childhood nickname due to asthma, a plant you like a lot, or a book sitting in your bedroom. But they apparently went with, like, the AIM screen name generator approach, which was based off of June's favorite soda and Johnny Gioli's age. It's like if I did that. I was Classic Gamer 14 once, but, I got over that. They didn't. They're pretty old. And that brings us Crush 40. June and Johnny, though, they weren't content with just Open Your Heart and riding off into the sunset. With the release of Sonic Adventure 2, they came back to the franchise to release the greatest song ever written for a Sonic game, which was Escape from the City.
Max?
What?
They didn't do that.
Wait, let me check the notes. And by that I mean make them smaller so I can read them. That's a coherent sentence, right?
Yeah.
It says here that Ted Poley did the vocals for that song. So that is not an official Crush 40 song. Sorry, Crush 40 fans. Don't worry, you still have Live and Learn. Next, Crush 40 decided to make music for Sonic Heroes. And, I mean, it's Sonic Heroes, so who really remembers that? Then they decided to make a song coming from the heart that's really, an inspiration for everybody and spoke to the young teenagers. I'm kidding. They wrote I Am All of Me for Shadow the Hedgehog, which, let's be honest, way better than anything MCR has pooped out.
Yeah, the biggest scream I've ever heard in my life was when they announced I Am All of Me at the Sonic Symphony. I've never heard people scream loud.
I'm an unironic I Am All of Me enjoyer. Thank you, one other person. So after that, they just kind of slowly stopped after Sonic Generations. I mean, sure, they did music for that, and then they just
disappeared.
Well, they did make an album for my 22nd birthday. That was pretty cool. I didn't ask for it, but their live album came out, and they stopped. They were rejected 40. It's almost like I was mentally reading notes for One Slide Ahead. At this point, Sonic stopped using them and just started bringing in like guest musicians every game. And I mean, sometimes it was good, and sometimes it was Hoobastank and Sonic Forces. I don't know about you, but I don't like the only fans I like less than Sonic fans are nu metal fans. So, oof.
Yeah, and
I'm not surviving this room, am I?
no, and we'd be remiss if we didn't, of course, briefly touch on the Sonic fandom.
We don't need to do that.
Because it's pretty
They're
problematic.
here.
You're in our audience. You know what kind of fan art's on the internet. I'm not going to talk about this because this isn't like an 18+ panel. But Sonic just kind of gets into a lot of things, and he's going to be around forever. As much as we'd like to get rid of Sonic, Sonic's honestly a very good quarantine zone. Like, don't get me wrong, we'd love to blow him up and get rid of him. But he's a fantastic quarantine zone for all of these problematic individuals. The last time they escaped quarantine, we saw what happened to ponies. So Sonic just kind of exists to keep these people from getting into other content. And don't you worry, there's always going to be more Sonic content. We can't be rid of it. They're just going to keep making it because it keeps printing money.
So with that, oh my god, we're done. I'd like to thank everyone who picked on you for liking Sonic the Hedgehog. Sony for delivering the killing blow. Wow, we didn't update this. This is the Fan Expo version of this panel.
Whoops.
And Snake for having the best matchup against Sonic and Ultimate. Here's you can follow us on that link. We have a few more panels today and tomorrow. I'm pulling up the list because I didn't put them in here. That's Andrew's fault, right?
Yeah, clearly.
It's all Andrew's fault. We will also accept questions for about 10 minutes.
But we do thank you for coming to our panel.
we
we
do
hope
thank
you
you all for
really
being
enjoyed
here.
this. We're happy to be here.
It's not loading my other panel.
Want me to pull it up next?
Yeah, one of us will be able to pull it up.
All right.
But
Here we
yeah.
go. So after this, we have Let's Talk About Harems at 6 o'clock p.m. in the Summit Building over at 440. Pokemon Live, The Death of the Musical, which is about the stage musical for Pokemon that came out in 2000.
Yeah, it was
did
great.
exist, I'm sorry, but it did.
It was great. You still haven't seen it.
It's an
You
ARC
suck.
307. And then tomorrow we have Ash Can't Catch 'Em. We talk about how Ash is an absolute horrible Pokemon trainer. That's at 2 p.m. tomorrow.
So if you have a question, either come up here or just go to the microphone, whatever makes you feel most important.
And have a great con.
No, have a great con. Thank you all for coming.
Really great. I want to ask, have you guys ever played the game where it's like you Google your name, Hedgehog?
Yes.